Hey guys, this is Giles. So I picked up the Codex Eldar Craftworlds book yesterday. Spent the last day reading it, reviewing it, comparing it to the old Codex, and I just thought I'd give you guys a quick review and my thoughts on it. First off, on the book itself, great cover as the last ones have been. Really like the artwork on this. The book's in good shape. Pretty hardy book compared to the old ones, similar to the recent ones. One thing I will say is it is pretty big. I think it is, let me see here, about 160 pages long, so a pretty hefty tome. Inside, the artwork is just as good. Some of these images are old, some are new. But all of the artwork is top-notch. The paper is of really good quality. So I think this is a book that'll last a while. The binding seems to be pretty good. Mind you, I'm no expert, but overall the quality of the actual book itself is good. One thing they've done a little different that I found kind of cool was, you know, they always do a few pages, a little bit showing the color schemes of the different craft worlds and giving you ideas for your painting, but this one, they really seem to put a lot more work into it than they have in the past. I mean, there is just page after page after page of color schemes and information here. Way more than there seemed to have been in the past. I mean, probably even a little bit more than Codex Space Marine. Just page after page. In fact, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead. Another thing they seem to do a little differently is there's usually a collection of pictures of models. That's common, has been for a while. But in my opinion, they seem to have done more and better pictures this time. They're really trying to create a show for this book. Giving you an example of what you can do. Give the painters something to aspire towards. Now, me, I can't paint as well as this, so it kind of humbles me and reminds me how I can't paint, but it really does give you something to aim for. Just really great work here. Great pictures. Let me see here. Sorry, I was trying to silence my phone. Alright, so that's my thought on the aesthetics of the book, so let's get down to the meat. First off, for the rules, now we have our basic rules as we had in the past. We have our battle focus, which allows us to, in the shooting phase, run and then shoot, or shoot and then run. Very tactically useful. When the very first book came out, I had no idea how useful it was going to be, but after actually using it for a game or two, it's just very powerful ability. Secondly, we still have the same Ancient Doom, our hatred towards Slaanesh, as well as our fear. That hasn't changed. Also, we still have Fleet army-wide, as we have since 3rd edition. Even though Fleet's a little different now than then, it's still a useful ability to have. And I'm going to start going off on the different units in the army now. I'm going to start in the HQ section. I'm going to start off, let me adjust my camera here a little bit. Whoa, that's a lot of glare. See if I can fix that. Here we go. Eldrad. Best Farseer in the game. One of the best psychics in the game. He's still level 4. He actually went down in price by about 10 points. Equipment is the same. He's got Shuriken Pistol, Witchblade, Ghost Helm, and the Staff of Ulthanar. Now that has pretty much exactly the same as it had been. It's Spirit Link, Fleshbane, Force. If he gets a psychic ability off, he gets another dice back on a 5 or 6. Always useful. His Warlord trait changed a little bit. He no longer has that stealth bubble that personally I always forgot to use. Instead, they combined his old ability of being able to cause D3 units to reposition and they converted that into his Warlord trait, giving D3 units Scout. So you can't quite reposition as far as you used to, but now you don't have to stay in your deployment zone. You can go forward. So I think that balances out. He has the Ancient Doom, Battle Focus, Fleet, Independent Character, Mastery, Level 4 Psyker. He doesn't have the Runes of Witnessing and the Runes of Warding anymore. He doesn't really need the defensive one because he's a level 4 and he's going to have +1 probably to his Deny the Witches anyways. And rather than needing the one that allows him a one-time only reroll, all Farseers now have a special ability that allows them to reroll any of the dice of a psychic phase once per phase. So let's say he rolls 4 dice, he can pick up any of those dice that he didn't like the result of and roll them again. Obvious use is to reroll ones that fail to get as many successes as possible, but also if you have way more successes than you need, if you get a peril, so double 6, you can pick up reroll one of those 6s and possibly not peril. If he does peril, he, just like all the rest of the Farseers, still have the Ghost Helm that allows him to, as long as he has 1 dice left in his pool, if he takes a wound from a peril, he can give up that dice to avoid the wound. So, very durable. He's got some protection against peril, so you don't mind throwing more dice out with him. Overall, I still think an excellent HQ. I'll probably be using him as my Warlord quite frequently. I've always liked Eldrad, and I don't see any reason why I would stop using him. Next choice to go over is Prince Uriel. I personally don't use him a lot, so I'm not one to give tactics on him, but looking over the book, he doesn't seem to have changed much. He's the same price as he was before. Same general equipment. Independent character, Path of Command, so he has the Eldar Autok Trickery when it comes to the reserve rolls. He still has the Eye of Wrath, which is a large blast template that is strength 6 AP3, 1 use only, hurts everyone, both friend and foe around him. And he also has the Cursed Spear Twilight, which is Fleshbane, Armorbane, Cursed, AP3. So useful. Next one is Iliac Night Spear. Now his sniper rifle is no longer Distort, but it gave the new rule of Void Shot, which does the same thing. If he gets a 6 to wound, it causes instant death. He also has the Infiltrator abilities, so that if he comes in outflank, he can... I'm sorry, I'm confusing it with somebody else. When he infiltrates, he's able to go anywhere on the table, regardless of line of sight. And he can actually take a unit of Rangers with him. He also, all of his shots are precision shots, and he also grants that to a Ranger squad he joins. So you get to place wounds wherever you want them. Always a nice, useful ability. Warlord trait gives him split fire. He has hatred and preferred enemies against Necrons. Move through cover and shrouded. Always handy. And no change in his points. Next is a Searman. A Searman is the same points as he was. Some slight differences. His Shield of Grace is no longer just a 4+ invulnerable save. How it works now is it's a 4+ invulnerable save, but if he's in a challenge, it improves to a 3+ invulnerable save, which helps. His Sword of Asir is no different. Strength +1, AP2, Mastercrafted Soul Razor. So, pass the leadership test. If he does a wound to a guy, they have to pass the leadership test, and if they fail, they're instantly killed. Or actually removed from play, even worse. His other nifty rule is he gets D3 Warlord traits rather than one set one. But he has to pick them from this book, not from the standard rulebook. His equipment, other than the sword, is the same. The Phoenix armor, he's got Twin-Linked Avenger Shuriken catapults. He has grenades, as all of the Phoenix swords now come stock with. He also has counterattack and the new Dire Avenger special ability of Defense Tactics, which Dire Avengers now, where they used to have counterattack, they now have a choice. When they get assaulted, they may either have counterattack and stubborn, or they may choose to do their Overwatch fire at Ballistic Skill 2 rather than Ballistic Skill 1. I'm going to have to play with both, see what I want. I always lean towards shooting with Dire Avengers because that's what they do best, especially with Bladestorm. But I'm going to have to play a little bit to see if that Ballistic Skill 2 makes as much of a difference as the extra close combat attack that would be granted from counterattack. Combined there with the stubborn. Even if you can't win, just holding up the enemy for a turn so you can get some help in there. Sometimes it's worth it. Eternal Warrior, as all of the Phoenix Lords have. They all have Fear, Fearless, Fleet, and Eternal Warrior. So that's Assyrian. Next is Jane Czar. And personally, I think she got a lot better. She's the same points as she was. Has the Phoenix armor like the rest. Her Warlord trait adds 3 inches to run in charges, which is nifty. She also has the Acrobatics, which increases 3 inches to runs and charges. So she basically gives plus 6 inches of movement to the run move. So it's going to be 1d6 plus 6. Eldar still don't have an open top transport, but now they've made it where, at least if Jane Czar's with the unit of Howling Banshees, they are really going to book it across the table. So you're not going to get nearly as much time to shoot at them as you used to. And if you give your opponents multiple targets to shoot at, then they're going to have to choose. So you never know. Banshees might actually be able to make it in now. She has all the other standard rules. She also has the War Shout, which I'll read when I get to the Banshees because I don't remember it now off the top of my head. She has Disarming Strike, which is a little different than it used to be. Now, where you used to have an opposed roll with your opponent to see if the power worked or not, now it's automatic. She just picks one weapon of the enemies, and that weapon they don't get to use. So if they have a Power Fist or a Thunder Hammer or something, you can just tell them that they can't use it, and then they're stuck with close combat. There's no way they can counter it that I can tell. Her weapon, Silent Death, is still the same as it was. Strength User, AP 2, Assault 4, Range 12. And her melee weapon, the Blade of Destruction, is Strength User, AP 2, Melee, and Shred now, which is handy. And her mask, I think, got a little bit better. Now when she charges in, models cannot overwatch. Handy. And also where when she charged, enemy models used to be -5 to weapon skill and initiative. Now it just says that any model within 6 inches of Jane Czar subtracts 5 from their weapon skill and initiative. Does not say on the turn she charges. So even a Space Marine Lord is going to be hitting her on 5s. So pretty nifty. And it doesn't say in challenge either, it says all models. So it'll help the rest of her unit out as well. So she's definitely got a little bit of a boost. Kradris is a major beatstick. Now he actually dropped in points by 30 points. One of the biggest drops I've seen in a while. And he's gotten better, which is the fun thing. He's got the same stats, same equipment everybody else, as in Phoenix Armor, Fleet, Eternal Warrior, Fearless. But he also gets Infiltrate, Move Through Cover, Night Vision, for some reason, Stealth, and the new Shadow Strike ability. Which, with Striking Scorpions now, when they infiltrate, they get Shrouded and Stealth. And they keep both those abilities until the first time they fire in the shooting phase or assault. So that's pretty cool. Makes them a lot more survivable if they can stick to cover, which is much more into the fluff of the units. He also gets the Hunter Strike, which is if he's held in reserve, he automatically arrives at the start of the turn 2, and when he arrives, he can move onto the table, any table edge. He gets to pick. He doesn't have to roll. There's no randomness. He just picks where he wants to come in, and that's where he comes in. Another thing cool about him is his Manda Blaster. Now, the Manda Blaster's got changed considerably. where they used to be a strength 6, now every Mander Blaster at initiative 10 automatically does a wound to the opponent on a roll of a 4+. Then they get their armor saves, regardless of toughness. But Carandras's is better. His Mander Blaster, the Scorpion's Bite, automatically does a wound on a 2+ when no armor saves. So any sergeant that's stupid enough to challenge him has, 84% chance, I think it is, of dying before he even gets to swing before Carandras even gets to swing his weapon. And the cool thing about his is his will actually wound gargantuan creatures on a 4+. That's pretty awesome. And once again, no armor saves. I can't see that it has any effect on armor though, so like dreadnoughts and such, there's no real strength. It just says does a wound. So maybe I'll catch that one and find it later. Or if you guys find it, throw it down in the comments section for the rest of us. But he's still pretty much a beatstick. Next we have Freegan. I've always had a soft spot for Freegan. His points are the same. He has a fire pike and melta bombs. He's got his fire axe, which is strength as user, AP1, and an armor bane. Always fun. His special ability is the new Fire Dragon special ability of Assured Destruction. And what that does is when you roll on the vehicle damage table, you get a +1. So with those melta weapons being AP1, they're going to be +3 on the damage chart. So even if you roll just a 4 or higher, or scratch that, yeah, a 4 or higher, the vehicle's destroyed. Explosion result. That means probably 5 melta guns getting lucky would probably blast a Wraith Knight with decent rolls. So that is pretty awesome. He also, unlike the other Phoenix Swords, has Feel No Pain. Combine that with Eternal Warrior, and that makes him a lot more survivable, even without an invulnerable save. The Feel No Pain alone will help a lot. He has Crack Shot that allows him to reroll 1 fail to hit, to wound, or armor pen per turn in case you get that whiff roll. And also, when you do wounds to him, for each wound he takes, he gets +1 strength and +1 attack. And I was playing with the idea there's that Warlock ability Renew that allows you to heal guys. It does not say in this rule that if those wounds are replaced or healed, that he loses those bonuses. It says that he just gets them till the end of the game. This would be very hard to do. You can't count on it, but I just think it would be fun as heck if somebody keeps injuring him and you keep healing him, and eventually you have Freegan running around at strength 10 with 10 attacks. Will it ever happen? No. Probably not. But it's still fun to think about. Anyways, moving on to the next one. We have Baroth, the red-headed stepchild of the Phoenix Lords. Alright, he's got a Hawk's Talon, Haywire Grenades, Plasma Grenades, Grenade Pack, Standard Swooping Hawk Fair. For special ability, he has the Hit and Run. Does not scatter when deep striking, per normal Swooping Hawks. And when he lands from deep striking, he hits everyone within 6 inches with blind. So they all have to take a standard blind test. His special weapon is a power sword that also has blind with each successful hit. So, I just can't help but feel there's better ones. I mean, Baroth dropped in points by 25 points, so that helps a lot. But still, I just can't help but think there's better HQs, personally. Now for the creme de la creme, Magan Ra. I still hit myself that I've still yet not bought this model, even though I love it. He stayed the same in points. His Warlord trait is basically Split Fire. He has Hatred, Chaos Demons, and Night Vision. He also has the special ability to fire his weapon twice per turn at its full statistics, which means he has a Shuriken Cannon that's Assault 4, so he can fire that sucker 8 shots and split those groups of 4 between 2 separate targets. Or he can choose to use the Shrieker rounds instead. Now the Shrieker is an assault 1, so he'll get to fire it twice. Poison on a 2+ shot that has the rending special rule and pinning. And if he does an unsaved wound to a target and it kills it, it explodes with a large blast template that's strength 5 AP 4. So you shoot and blow up an orc amongst a horde, and then they all take damage. So that just sounds too fun not to use. Oh, and by the way, the exploding result ignores cover, just to make it even more interesting. So I, after reading this book, ordered one from my local store, so I'll be getting Morgan Raw soon. Next is our lovely Autox. Now, we got a new nifty model on this one. I was looking over his points, and everything seems pretty similar. I think some of his war gear might be a little cheaper. I'll have to double check it. But the basic cost of the unit isn't changed. Same equipment, 3+ armor save, shuriken pistol, haywire grenades, plasma grenades. He can have a jet bike. He gets the 4+ force field. He also still has the path of command that gives you the +1 or -1 to reserves. After you roll the die, you get to pick. He can still have the warp jump generator, swooping hawk wings, the bike. He can have the Banshee Mask and the Manda Blasters. He can now have fusion pistols, as you can see on the model. I don't think he could do that before. But other than that, he seems to have all the other weapon choices he used to have. I don't see anything blaringly on here that I don't think wasn't there before, except for the pistol. Now, I never personally use these guys as my warlords, unless I'm using an allied detachment of Eldar and I want something really cheap. But usually I have one of these guys running around as my second HQ, just to give me the ability to play with the reserves, especially if I'm using my Crimson Hunters, because I always want them to come in after my opponent's flyers. And having that Autok there for that + or -1 has really helped make sure they come in when I actually want them to. So, if I can spare the points, I usually take them. Now, the next one is the Farseer. Now, he's almost identical. 100, same 100 points he always was. Same equipment he starts with. You can still get a Singing Spear. You can get a jet bike for him if you want. The only real new thing is with his Psychic level 3 is that ability I talked about with Eldrad, where I'll just read it to you. Once in each psychic phase, a model with this special rule can reroll any number of dice used in a single Deny the Witch test or Psychic test, potentially negating perils. That pretty much says it all. So that person, I think, is extremely useful. He does also still have the Ghost Helm, so these guys are just, dang good at using the warp. And he can take Demonology Sanctic, no more summoning demons for the Eldar. He has Divination, Runes of Fate, and Telepathy. Alright, now these guys did change quite a bit. The Warlock Conclave, where it used to be you would buy a group of Warlocks, distribute them among the forces, each one getting a psychic power, or being level 1. Now they're Brotherhood of Psychers. And what level they are depends on how many Warlocks. 1 to 3, you're level 1. 4 to 6, you're level 2. 7 or higher, you're level 3. And you can have up to 10 Warlocks at the same price per Warlock as they used to be. But even though they're a Brotherhood of Psychers, they still each get 1 die each for warp charges. Unit generates 1 warp charge point at the beginning of each phase for each Warlock or Warlock Skyrunner, the bikes, in the unit, regardless of current mastery level. So these guys, if you have the points for them, are a great battery for your psychic dice. And, only having 3 powers does nerf them a bit, because it used to be you'd have so many Warlocks you'd get to just pretty much get dang near every single power. Now you're only getting 3 total for the unit. A touch of a nerf, but not too bad, considering all the other boons we got in this book. It's one we can take. Next is the Spirit Seer. Very similar as to where he was before. No changes in his points. His equipment's the same. He's still level 2. Can have Demonology, Sanctic, Runes of Battle, and Telepathy. Slight difference. He used to be able to nominate one unit within 12 inches, and then all the Wraith constructs would get reroll ones to hurt them or to hit them with their shooting. Now he has that effect on all units within 12 inches. So any enemy within 12 inches of Spirit Seer, the Wraith constructs reroll to hit rolls of a 1. So not too shabby. But that's the only real difference with him. Guardians are pretty much where they used to be. Same points, same weapon loadouts. Weapon platforms still a little costly. Instead of getting your Warlocks from the Warlock Council now, you just buy them as upgrades to your unit. So not too shabby. They all have plasma grenades. They all battle focus still, and the Blade Storm on the Shuriken Catapult, so they're all still the same there. Personally, I love Guardians. I run a lot of them. I've had opponents in tournaments say, who the heck runs 30 Guardians in a tournament? And then after I finished tabling them, I told them I did. That was a fun moment. So never scoff on Guardians. They definitely can get the job done, especially if you bring enough of them and you have a Farseer supporting them with Doom and Guide. They become unearthly at taking things out. The next choice is Storm Guardians. I don't use these guys much, but they're basically the same as Guardians, but instead of a catapult, you get a pistol and close combat weapon. Up to 2 may exchange a close combat weapon for power swords. And up to 2 can take flamers or fusion guns. And they also can buy a Warlock as an upgrade. So, not too shabby. Oh, they changed slightly, where they actually no longer have a minimum unit size of 10. They now have a minimum unit size of 8. But the points per model are the same. So, I think they just kind of try to link that with how many pieces you get when you order the conversion kit, so that you only need 1 conversion kit to get a minimum size unit. Alright, now these guys have had a bit of a change. The Wind Riders. Points are the same, rules are the same, equipment's the same. You now buy your Warlock as an upgrade to the unit rather than stealing one from another unit. The biggest change on these guys is now, rather than just Shuriken cannons, you can also get scatter lasers. And what makes them really rough is where it used to be 1 upgrade per 3 bikes. Now you get 1 upgrade per bike. So every single bike in the unit can have a scatter laser or a Shuriken cannon. Now that, alright, I'm not going to say it's overpowered, but it does have the potential to be abused and to make some pretty cheesy lists. Now, I've heard lots of people complaining online about this, and I just have to put in my 2 points. Rather than blaming the book, raising Cain, arguing about breaking the Codex, and no one wanting to play Eldar again, why don't we just be good sportsmen, talk to each other, agree to what kind of lists we're going to play, whether we're going to play fun lists, competitive lists, or go for the juggler lists, and just agree with each other beforehand. Maybe even let each other look at the lists, and if you can easily tell that one army is going to totally dominate the other, change your list a bit, okay? Because we all know, no matter how good you are, this game has a definite element of rock, paper, scissors. Some lists are going to be overly effective against other lists. So, rather than always trying to dominate your opponent, try to tweak your list where it's balanced and you have a fun game for both sides. If you guys can do that, then you can definitely work through those elements of this codex which might be a little overpowered. Okay? Now this isn't going to work in tournament where everybody is out for the jugular. But yeah, I never mind poking tournament players with a stick because they have a tendency of complaining too much anyway. So, have at it, GW. But guys, just remember, for fun games, just talk to each other, and you can usually work this kind of stuff out. Okay? And don't be the guy bringing the jugular list to the store for pickup games. especially if you're going to be, playing against junior players who haven't played that long, because that's a great way to encourage kids to not play this game anymore. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox and move on to the next unit. Rangers. Still equipped with the sniper rifle, infiltrate, move through cover, shrouded, always handy. I can't remember on this. I think they had stealth before. They might have been shrouded, but still pretty nifty, especially if you mix them with that Iliac Knight Spear, where they all get the precision shots. But even on their own with the sniper rifles, it's still pretty good. Move on to the next unit. Oh, and let me see here. Any changes? No changes in their costs. Dire Avengers. Their points are the same. Their equipment works the same. Avengers Shuriken Catapult is the same. Well, one thing I didn't notice before is X-Arcs are different now. It used to be you'd buy X-Arc powers. Now they're pre-set up. You don't pay for them, that I can tell. They just kind of come with your X-Arc. And each X-Arc only seems to get one, from what I'm reading here. Also, X-Arcs now have 2 wounds, which I think is pretty nifty when I noticed. So they got a little boost right in and of themselves. Dire Avengers, I think I talked about this earlier. Their new ability is got rid of counterattack and now have defense tactics. So when you get charged, you can either Overwatch or Blitz's skill 2 or have counterattack and stubborn. You get to choose for each situation. Other than that, the options seem pretty much the same. I think there's one extra choice for the X-Arc. I think you used to be able to have the Dire Sword and Shuriken Pistol, Power Sword and Shimmer Shield, or Twin Link Dire Avenger Catapult. Now they added in Power Sword and Pistol, or Power Weapon and Shuriken Pistol. So you could get an axe on this guy if you wanted to, or a maul, or whatever you'd like. So, small change, not a big deal. Howling Banshees. Now, I'm not going to say these guys are going to become a staple on the table, but I think they're slightly more playable. The acrobatics rule that they have now adds 3 inches to a maximum move distance when it runs and when it makes charge moves. So, if you don't think you're going to be able to charge, run and get the 3 inches. If you think you're going to be able to get the charge, then just charge it. And don't forget, this stacks with Jane Zars, which will give them an additional 3 inches. So if they take her, they'll have an extra 6 inches to their either charge move or run move. Pretty nifty. War Shout is their X-Arc ability. Enemy units locked in combat with a model that has this special rule subtracts 2 from their leadership. Always nice. They each still have the Power Sword and the Banshee Mask. They seem to have the same options as they used to, but the difference with them is now these girls are cheaper. The unit is 10 points cheaper, which I think comes down to about 2 points per model. Yeah, so these guys are coming in at a whopping 13 points a model. Not too bad. Now on to the next. Striking Scorpions, I kind of went over their new special ability where they have the Shrouded and Stealth, and they keep that until they either assault or charge. Their X-Arc has Stalker, which is in the first round of a challenge. This model makes 1 bonus attack for each point that its initiative is higher than its opponent's initiative characteristic. His initiative is 6, so let's say he's fighting against a tactical squad of Space Marines. He's going to have his base 2 attacks, plus 2 for the initiative difference for 4, plus 1 for charging if he charged in. So that's pretty sweet. Plus possibly more depending upon how you armed him. The Manda Blasters I went over does an automatic wound on a 4+, but on theirs you do get the armor save. They have Infiltrate and Move Through Cover. So Dire Avengers Striking Scorpions are still pretty cool. Now, one of my favorites, as everybody else's, the Fire Dragon. With their Assured Destruction, they have that +1 modifier when rolling on the vehicle damage table. Awesome. They each still have the same fusion gun, which works exactly like it always has. It has melt-a-bombs. And they seem to have the same options as they did before. and no change on their points. So they're pretty good still. Okay, Wraithguard. Something else that's caused a bit of a stir. The rumor on Wraith cannons and all Wraith weapons becoming D strength weapons is true. But the sky is not falling, people. They have short range weapons. They're bulky, so the only transport they'll fit into is a Wave Serpent. And for the D scythes, they get a -1 to their D results. So you're never going to get that 6 with a D scythe. And on 1s and 2s, they're going to do nothing. Now, I'm not saying they aren't better than they were. They absolutely are way better than they were, especially at cracking vehicles open. But it's not game over. One battle cannon will still take out the squad if you can hit them right. You know, they're still killable, but they are better. And they're still 32 points apiece. So, yeah, that happened. I only have one squad of 5. I'll play with them some, let you know later what I think. But, you know, I think once we get used to it and wrap our brains around it, we'll realize that Strength 10, AP 1, Instant Death on 6 wasn't that much worse than the Strength D. Not saying it hasn't gotten better. I absolutely agree with you, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Next is the Wraith Blaze. Now, these guys went down in points by 10 points per unit. They can swap between the 2 swords or the axe and shield freely. They don't have a points difference. But these guys gained rage, which will make them a lot more fun when they assault into close combat. Which was one of my biggest complaints about them, is they only had, with the axe and shield, only 1 attack. And I just didn't feel like that did it. I mean, yeah, they'll do damage. Yeah, they'll be hard to kill. But it'll take them forever to work their way through a couple squads of orcs. You know, they'll only be killing, 50% because weapon skill 4 versus weapon skill 4 if they're fighting orcs. So maybe if they're fighting 10 orcs, and there's only 5 of them, they'll kill maybe 2 or 3 a turn. Takes too long. So rage might help give them that first hit that might break the opponent and keep them moving. But if they do get tied up by a large, fearless unit, they're just going to be there all day. Wave Serpents. Now, these guys got nerfed a little bit, to my opinion. Their price went down by 5 points. Whoop-dee. And their Serpent Shield now only fires once per game. And if you do, then the shield is down. But it is 2d6 now. So, yeah, there's that. Hold on. Sorry, just double checking that. Make sure I didn't tell you guys wrong. Yeah, so it's 2d6, ignores cover. It is one use only, and if you use it, then you lose the shield altogether. You can no longer use it to downgrade penetrating hits to glancing hits. And it's only range 24 inches. So that was quite a bit of a change, especially now that scatter lasers no longer have laser lock. So you don't get the reroll the hits either. So they took quite a bit of a nerf. It's not one I think is game-changing. It will change a lot of people's lists, and a lot of people will be angry because I saw people all over the place who are fielding 4 or 5 Wave Serpents. But, our lists change. They do. I mean, that's just the reality of the game. So we just always have to adapt our tactics and move on. It's still, I think, a really solid transport. It can carry 12 people, which is pretty nifty. And, yeah. So one thing I did notice is on all the lists for vehicles, when it's talking about the Eldar missile launcher, in the previous book it said it came with this shot, and then you could buy the Skyfire option. That's not in this. Every single one of these just says Eldar missile launcher. Doesn't say what missiles it comes with. None of them give you any options to change the missiles, and doesn't say which missiles it comes with. So if I'm reading this right, all Eldar missile launchers now come with all 3 rounds stock. I cannot read anywhere where it doesn't say that. All it says is you have these kinds of missiles in your missile pod. in the basic description of the weapon itself. So if the Skyfire option is free, like I think it is, please correct me in the comments if I am wrong, then that saved us some points too, and also opens up a lot more Skyfire for our army for a lesser price. Because it used to be very limited on which vehicles could get the Skyfire. I think only Warwalkers and Dark Reaper Exarchs back in the day. But I'm not seeing that even in the Warwalker description anymore. So, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Down in the comments. Next fast attack is the Swooping Hawks. Now, they lost their ability to jump back into reserves every turn. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I think that's gone. But what they did get was the ability to fly over flyers and drop haywire grenades on them. At the end of the movement phase, a model with this special rule can make one attack against an enemy flyer or flying monster's creature that it moved over that turn. The attack hits on a roll of a 4+ and is resolved at Strength 4, AP 4 haywire. So that's pretty cool. And it hits flyers on the side armor, which is usually weaker. So, yeah, that's pretty nifty. So these guys really are getting a lot of anti-flyer capabilities. So they might be able to rival Tau here pretty soon. Other than that, they still got lots of shots with a low-strength weapon. They get that either small or large blast template that now ignores cover when they come in from deep strike. As far as I can tell, that's the only time you can use it. Guys, correct me if I missed it and put it in the comments if you found the rule where they can use it multiple times a game. I just didn't see it. Other options seem to be pretty much what they were. And Swooping Hawks, let me look at my list here. No change in their cost. Warp Spiders changed a little bit. I don't really think it was for the worse or the better. It just is what it is. They're still mega fast in the movement phase, 2d6 plus 6. But now they can move in your opponent's shooting phase. If your opponent declares shots at them, before they roll to hit or before they actually shoot, you can move them 2d6 inches. And if you can pull yourself out of range or out of line of sight where your opponent can no longer shoot you, they cannot pick another target. Downside is if you do this move in the shooting phase, you lose the ability to use the jump generator in your next movement phase. So I'd rather just try to set them up where they can't be shot at, but if you just can't, it's a way out. Their equipment seems pretty much the same, except the actual death spinners work a little bit. Monofilament now, rather than being the Strength 6, AP 2 on 6s to wound, +1 strength on low initiative targets. What it does now is compare the strength of the weapon to your opponent's initiative. You still use their toughness for instant death purposes, so they have to be toughness 3 or less to be able to instant die from this. But the big difference with this, them shooting at your initiative rather than your toughness, is it's going to help them against a lot of things like Tyranid monstrous creatures or gargantuan creatures like the Wraith Knights, initiative 5. This weapon is strength 6, and even though it's a gargantuan creature with toughness 8, they're going to be wounding it on 3s. And ignoring armor save on 6s to wound with lots of shots. So I think they got a little bit worse at vehicles since you're not going up to strength 7 anymore. But better at killing anything with a toughness. And they all have hit and run, which is useful. Get them out of that fight when they need to. The Exarch ability is a unit that contains at least one model with this special rule automatically passes pinning, fear, regroup tests, and morale checks. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. The actual war gear for the Exarch appears to be the same. Unit cost is the same. So, I don't have a problem with the changes. I think they'll work. Shining Spears. Sorry. So, let me see here. No change in their cost. They now have a 4+ cover save as their unit special ability. Everything seems to work about the same as it did before. They all have Skilled Rider. They all have Outflank. The Exarch can have, let me see, a model with this special rule rerolls all failed to wounds against monstrous creatures, and can choose to reroll armor penetration rolls that do not result in penetrating hit. Pretty handy. I've never used them. I still don't see them used. I think I've played against them once in the last 5 years. Probably longer than that. But you never know. They might come back. Hopefully they'll come out with the newer jetpack models. Oh, the Crimson Hunter. I have 3 of these. Love them. And they got a little bit better. They now have Marksman's Eye, which this model makes precision shots on 5+ rather than 6. Meh. And Sky Hunter, shooting at a vehicle with the flyer type, a model with this special roll rerolls armor penetration rolls that do not cause a glancing or penetrating hit. And considering they have a good ballistic skill, especially the Exarch, I think that will be a very handy ability for dominating the skies. Get air superiority going. They have Vector Dancer still. Beautiful ability. You can replace your Bright Lances with Star Cannons, although personally I would never do that. So these guys still rock. Vipers went down by 10 points. No big change in their weapon upgrades that I can make out. You know, we still lost the laser lock with scatter lasers. Other than that, they seem pretty much the same. Can be in squads of 1 to 6. I think that's a little different. But luckily, you can still have just a squad of 1, which is good for me because I only own 1. I like the point drop because I always felt they were a little squishy. So, yeah. Hemlock Wraith Fighters. I think these guys got a little bit better. 2D dice. So remember, all distort weapons are now Strength D. So this has 2 Strength D blast weapons. They are the -1 to roll, so you're not going to get the D strength of 6, and they're not going to do anything on 1s and 2s. But 3 through 6, they're going to hurt something if they hit. They get the Mind Shock Pod for its leadership shenanigans. And it's now Psychic Pilot level 2. And this fighter can take Demonology Sanctic, Runes of Battle, and Telepathy. So you can actually use Psychic Shriek from an aircraft that messes with your opponent's leadership. Yeah, I want one. I think this will be a fun unit to play with. Now on to the next unit. Dark Reapers. They dropped in points. Let's see, by how many points? Looks like 15 points per unit. They still have the same kind of equipment. Reaper launchers with Star Swarm missiles. Reaper rangefinders, which makes it where your opponent cannot jink against them. They have slow and purposeful, so they can fire their weapons even if they're on the move. And they reroll failed to hit rolls when firing at zooming or swooping or turbo boosted models or models that moved flat out during the previous turn. So if you're boogieing across the board, these guys get to reroll their hits against you. But they don't have Skyfire. I can't find Skyfire anywhere here. The XR can get Fast Shot, which allows him to fire his weapon 1 extra shot. I think that's pretty much the same as it had been before. Their upgrades all seem very similar. They can still get the Star Shot missiles for 8 points apiece, but then they're getting kind of pricey. Reaper Exarch seems to cost 15. That's a little bit much, but he does have 2 wounds now. The better ballistic skill. Oh, he can get Star Shot. No, that's the same as what I talked about before. They can all get Star Shot. So it still doesn't mention the Skyfire missile. But, oh, it just says they can get Eldar missile launcher. So I guess that comes with all the missiles then. Because that Star Shot is for the Reaper launcher. So pretty nifty. Val's Wrath. No change in points for these guys. All the different weapon options still seem to cost about the same. You can buy a Warlock for them as an upgrade. So these guys seem pretty similar as they were before, except for that, remember, the D cannon is now Strength D. Falcons. Now these guys changed a lot. You can now take these guys in units of 3 as a single unit, And if you do take 3, and only if you take 3, the Falcons gain the deep strike ability. But not only do they deep strike, they don't scatter. You place the first one anywhere you want, it does not scatter, and then you place the other 2 within 4 inches of it. So you can load these suckers full of fire dragons, drop right behind a adamantium lance, park the fire dragons on the corners between side and rear armor, make your opponent declare their shield facing, then you battle focus to the side that doesn't have a shield, hit them with 5 or 6 melta-guns that have the assured destruction. So on a 4+, you're getting 6s and all the extra hull points. You're getting where I'm going at here. I'm not sure point-wise if it'll balance out, but I think these guys will just put knights out. I mean, I'm not worried about them anymore. And I'll cheat a little bit, give a spoiler away. There's a way to give your fire dragons ballistic skill 5. Free of charge, and I'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, I think Adamantium Lance is going to stop being a thing at all the tournaments. At least it is a thing at all the tournaments where I'm at. So you can probably hear the bitterness in my voice. I don't like those things. But on to the next unit. Oh, some of their options got a little cheaper, like the scatter laser is free now. I guess it lost its laser lock, so it's not quite as costly. Everything else is pretty much the same. Fire prisms also can be bought in units of 3 now. Their special ability is to link fire. I think they could always do that. Basically, one will give up its shooting to make another one's attacks +1 strength and -1 AP. I can see limited uses for that, but it might come in handy every now and then. And I don't think they didn't change in price at all. The only big change with these guys is now units of 1 to 3. Night Spinners. Strength 7 monofilament, if I remember correctly. Attacking against an opponent's initiative. I like you a lot. And if you have multiple of these guys in units of 3 now, working together, nominate one model in the squadron as the fire. The other models in the squadron cannot fire. The nominated model shoots using the Doomweaver's dispersed profile, adding 1 to the strength and number of shots. So even though the other ones aren't shooting, you're still getting more shots. And +1 strength per each one of those shots. So that can be pretty sweet. And let me see, these guys point-wise went down by 15 points. Only 100 points each. That's pretty sweet. I might pick up some of these. Alright, the big change. You guys probably already heard this on the internet, but the Wraith Knight is now a gargantuan creature, therefore gaining stomp and feel no pain and immunity to instant death, just take some extra wounds. He went up to gained an extra 55 points to his cost. I think that's a little undercosted, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. Now that he's a gargantuan creature, he can fire all of his weapons at all the different targets he wants. So there's actually a reason to buy the scatter lasers and star cannons now, because he can fire all 4 weapons and all 4 weapons at different targets. Also, his 2 heavy wraith cannons have become strength D. Or if your gaming group doesn't like range D, you can swap it for the Ghost Glaive and Scatter Shield, and the Ghost Glaive makes the Wraith Knight strength D. So yeah, he's going to hurt things in close combat. Or he can have the Sun Cannon and Scatter Shield. That works pretty much like it did before. Great at taking out Terminators and heavily armored troops. He can have Star Cannon, Shuriken Cannons, or Scatter Lasers. So Wraith Knight got really powerful. But to those poor people who have like 6 or 7 of them, yes, there is a way you can still use that many, but very few opponents will be happy with you doing so unless you're fighting Apocalypse. You're probably going to get only one of these, maybe two in a game now, without being that guy. Unless, of course, you set it up with your opponent first. If your opponent agrees to it, you can do whatever you want. Yay, Unbound. But talk to your opponent first if you're using Wraith Knights. Be nice to them. Come up to an agreement you both live with. Next Lord of War, the Avatar. Mainly the same. He's got a few new toys. His bubble that used to give Fearless to everybody within 12 inches now gives Fearless, Furious, Charge, and Rage. Not too bad. Still immune to Flamer weapons and Melta weapons. And the Wailing Doom now gives +2 strength in close combat, where it used to be Strength User, which is 6. Now he's Strength 8, Armor Bane in close combat. You can't beat that with a stick. And it still can fire as a Melta gun. And the Avatar stayed the same in points. Now, the new way we have of running our Eldar is the War Host. Now, if you take the War Host, first off, it'll make it where all to run rules for guys in the War Host detachment automatically get 6s. There's no more rolling a d6 and that's your run. It's now just automatically a 6. And that stacks with everything else. For instance, like the Howling Banshees with Jane Czar, having that 6 inches plus run. Run is now 6. So they have a 12-inch run now. Awesome. That's the main tweak I remember. Now, the different parts, how the War Host works, is you have to pick at least one core choice. And you have 3 to choose from, which I'm about to go over. And then you get to pick between 1 and 12 of these ancillary groups. And I'm only going to go over the ones that are actually formations. But some of these groups are like a Wraith construct, which means you get to choose a Wraith Knight, a Wraith Lord, or a Hemlock Fighter. That's how you can get your multiple Wraith Knights in the list. Another choice is a Mechanized unit. You have 3 Falcons or Night Spinners or, those. Rangers. A squad of Rangers is one choice. So you get 1 to 12 of this list, which is in the book. But I'm going to go over the formations that are part of that. Now, first the 3 core formations. The first one is the Guardian Battle Host. You have to take 1 Farseer, 3 units of Guardian Defenders, 1 Viper Squadron, 1 Warwalker Squadron, 1 Val's Wrath Support Battery. There's no restriction, so just 1 Viper, 1 Warwalker, and 1 battery would count. You can take 0 to 1 Warlock Conclaves if you choose to. The special rules for this is if you take this, the Guardian Defender squads can buy their heavy weapon platforms for free. That's a good amount of points you're saving. You take 20 Guardians, you can get 2 free weapon platforms. And also, if your Warwalker, your Viper, or your support battery is firing at an enemy unit that is within 12 inches of one of your Guardian units, they get preferred enemy. Not too shabby. Your next core choice is your jet bikes, where you have to take 1 Farseer on a bike, 1 Warlock Conclave on bikes, 3 units of Wind Riders, so 3 bike units, and 1 Viper Squadron. Not too shabby. Their special ability is once per game, they get to shred on all of their shuriken weapons. So not on the scatter lasers, but on your shuriken cannons and your shuriken catapults, all get the shred special rule until the end of the phase once per game. And the last of the core choices is the Guardian Storm Host, which is exactly like the other Guardian Host, except this one uses a Farseer, 3 units of Storm Guardians, a Viper, a Warwalker, a Val's Wrath Battery, and 0 to 1 Conclave. Their perks is, once again, you get the preferred enemy on enemies within 12 inches of the Guardians from the big guys, the Warwalker and Viper and Wrath Battery. But also, your Guardian squads can take their fusion guns and flamer upgrades for free, as well as the power weapons for free. If you're into Storm Guardians, I could see this being cool. Now, once you've taken your 1 core choice, frees you up for 1 of 2 HQ choices. One of them is the Hero's Choice, which gets you Eldrad, Phoenix Lord, Iliac Knight Spear, Prince Uriel, all those good guys. Or you can choose a Seer Council. Now, the Seer Council is 2 Farseers and 1 Warlock Conclave that has to have at least 5 guys in it. And all of them are 1 unit. You can take Eldrad as one of the Farseers, if I remember correctly. And the quirk for this unit is when you're using your Psychic Dice to get your powers off, they go off on a 3+ rather than a 4+. That's huge. So your spells are easier to go off. You get the re-rolls from the Farseers, for the Farseers' powers at least. And you have your Ghost Helm, so it's safer to throw more dice. So that is huge if you got the points, but it's going to be expensive. Also, if you take your Warlord from this unit, you get to reroll your Warlord trait if it's from this book. So, pretty awesome. Next formation is the Aspect Host. You get to choose 3 units of Aspect Warriors, and they can be Dire Avengers, Howling Banshees, Striking Scorpions, Fire Dragons, Swooping Hawks, Warp Spiders, Shining Spears, or Dark Reapers in any combination. If you take this formation, those 3 units of Aspect Warriors, at the beginning of the game, while Warlord traits are chosen, you can choose to give all 3 of those Aspect Warriors either +1 weapon skill or +1 ballistic skill. Cannot mix or match. The whole unit gets the same skill upgrade. So if you take Fire Dragons and Striking Scorpions, one of them is not going to get a helpful boost. So what you want to do is, if you're going to run Beal-Tanish, one of these get 3 units of all shooters, and 1 unit, 3 units of all close combat. That way you're not wasting this boost. That's just my thoughts. Do as you wish. Also, models in this formation can reroll failed morale and pinning tests. But this is how I told you can get 3 units of Fire Dragons with Ballistic Skill 5. Awesome. The next aspect choice is the Dire Avengers Shrine. You have to take 3 units of Dire Avengers, no more, no less. Has to be 3 units, Dire Avengers, and the number of Dire Avenger units you must take will be 3. Killing Strike is their ability, which basically, it's the old Bladestorm. Once per game, you get to fire your Avenger Shuriken catapults at Assault 3 rather than 2. Also, they get +1 to all their ballistic skills, so all these Dire Avengers are firing 3 shots each at ballistic skill 5, and they're ballistic skill 5 the whole game. Also, this formation reroll failed morale, pinning, and fear tests. So for anti-infantry, that makes the Dire Avengers extremely nasty. Next one is the Crimson Death. You get 3 Crimson Hunters. Has to be full 3. And they all get a 4+ cover save stock, whether you jink or not. Also, if you jink, you get to re-roll your cover saves. Nice, especially with these Armored 10 flyers. They also get preferred enemies against flying monsters or creatures. So you're re-rolling ones to hit against some flyers. And against the vehicles, you're getting to re-roll the armor penetrations if you don't get a pen. So you're going to be masters of the sky if you tweak this right, especially if their flyers show up first. The next and last of the formations I'm going to cover is the Wraith Host. Now, this is an expensive one. You have to have 1 Spirits here, no less than 3 units of Wraith Guard, no more either. Wraith Guard or Wraith Blades in any combination, 1 Wraith Lord, and 1 Wraith Knight. The bonuses for this is all the Wraith constructs actually get battle focus, because you may know this, they usually don't. Also, the Wraith sight goes up to 18 inches, so Wraith Guard, Blades, Lords, or Wraith Knights from this formation can reroll failed to hit rolls against enemy units that are within 18 inches of the Spirit Seer from this formation. Pretty nifty, and this is how you play your Iyanden. Downside with these guys is I see a lot of pushback against the Wraith Knight, and he's a required part of it. So, any guys who are in tournaments, listen to me. If you're going to be outlawing Wraith Knights in your tournaments, which I've already seen some tournaments in my area are not allowing any gargantuan creatures at all, or no ranged strength D. Change this formation for the Iyanden players. Make that Wraith Knight 0 to 1, so that if they can't take the Wraith Knight, they can still take the formation. You know, Spirits here, 3 units of Wraith Guard, or even Wraith Blades if you want to allow them to use the D guns. And 1 Wraith Lord. That way, at least Iyanden players can play their army. Alright. So that's them. There's other sites to go over. I don't want to go over everything. I don't want to get GW too mad at me, but I still want to give you a real good feel for the army. If you have any comments or anything I missed, please throw them down there. I read all my comments. If you like this review, please subscribe. Anything else you guys want me to do, please give me ideas. I'll try to get a battle report if I can out with the new book soon. Just kind of a feel for how it works. No promises on that. Thank you guys for the last 30 minutes of your time, and I hope you have a great day. Enjoy your gaming.